So I would say that the customer journey in almost every case, in almost every successful company that I've worked with is at the core and the crux of its ultimate success.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Insurance Growth Lab. I'm Calvin Harrington, and today I'm joined by Alex Harris. Alex is the co-founder of Fiat Growth and co-founder of Fiat Ventures. If that name sounds familiar, Alex was episode number 68 on That Worked. And with the new format of the show, we had to bring him back. In addition to co-founding Fiat Growth and Fiat Ventures, Alex was a very early employee at Chime, which recently went public, and it was pretty cool to capture that full circle moment on the show today. If you listen to the first episode with Alex, you know he is a partnership expert. So of course, that's where we spent our time in the deep dive. Alex walked us through a partnership that he helped put together and manage between Lemonade and Bestow, and it was super interesting.
We had talked about their existing products, which at the time were renters insurance and homeowners. And we talked about the value of adding life. And it was just something I had a few conversations at the time with various people about, hey, maybe you should consider offering this. There's a lot of life insurance that's out there in fintech today because I nicely suggested it, I guess, and people were nice enough to go along with it. So what that became is we actually brought together the Bestow and Lemonade teams in a highly regulated space. It is never super fast, but those teams came together, and Lemonade actually offered life insurance, and they offered life insurance through Bestow. So it was white label Bestow running everything in the background, but it took time to give it a very Lemonade feel.
Alex walked us through how they co-market, co-promote, and help each other maximize the partnerships. From the strategy to the tactics, he provided an absolute ton of great takeaways. And I gotta say, this was a masterclass on how to get the most out of a partnership. So with that, again, I'm gonna stop talking. Let's get to the show. Alex, welcome back, man. Welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me. Good to be back.
I'm excited to have you on in the new form. And before we kind of go into the weeds and the campaigns and all of that stuff, I want to kick this off with a question. When you hear the words, "we're going to rock down to Electric Avenue," what does that mean to you?
Oh, man. That will always means something to me. That's really funny that you ask. I haven't been asked that in a while. Yeah, it means to Electric Avenue is core to one of the first things that I made go viral. Back in, I don't know, it was probably 15 years ago, we had a sports agency that we were doing some work with, trying to help one of their athletes get attention. And so we ended up saying, let's do a video that we can make go viral. And this was, before TikTok and Reels and Vines. And, it was before anything of this kind of short form content and this kind of engagement. We went down to where this athlete was training in Arizona. We went to a Walmart and bought a bunch of random things that we thought maybe we could do something with, which was an adventure in itself. This guy, was actually a long snapper, which for those who are not familiar, there's only one carried on an NFL team. Their sole job is they snap the ball during punts and kicks,
Which is incredibly hard to do.
Incredibly hard. You have basically there's no room for failure. Our idea then was, let's prove that this guy has what it takes by coming up with all kinds of nonsense and trick shots for long snapping. And so we had a big tire, and we had a garbage can from the top of the bleachers that he had to snap into. We had people run routes. One of the things from Walmart that we got was a clay pigeon. And so we would throw the clay pigeon and he'd try to hit it with the football. Then we put some music to it, and Electric Avenue it came to us. And I think, if I remember right, Zach, who was the gentleman with all the talent, I think it was even his alarm clock. He woke up to Electric Avenue. He certainly did after the fact.
I bet he did.
Yeah.
That thing went mega viral.
It did.
Like that guy, it wasn't even so much just like, now, on TikTok, something can get a couple million views, but like that's just there. It's just a video with a couple million views on TikTok. That got picked up everywhere. All the national media outlets seem to have picked that
Yeah,
up.
it was amazing. It was the first time we got a call from the producers at ESPN saying they wanted to put it on PTI, which is, a show that we all love too. It was that was less than 24 hours after we posted the video too, and we just kind of seeded it. And yeah, viral was different from like people just liking it, right? It had
Yeah.
to be viral in a different way, and you had to seed it differently back then. So yeah, every time I hear that song, and actually there's a lot of friends of mine that I know still, they remember that and just had a ton of fun with it too. When they hear that song, they think of it too.
Now, you mentioned, you made it on that post specifically that you had put on there. You mentioned exactly, you said, this big hit was very helpful in opening the next doors of my career as more and more people got their own Google machines, which was what I believe Tony Kornheiser said. And it was him or Michael Wilbon said that in PTI's segment. Walk me through that. What was it? What did that kick off?
Early in my career, I was overeducated and underexperienced. And so they're like, cool. Anyone looking, they're like, cool. Yeah, you're educated, whatever. You want to know what you've actually done. And, I had worked with some startups and done some work and done a few things. But at that time too, it was the early days of content is everything. Views and engagement are everything. And being able to really monetize and capture the attention and get that kind of that earned media and that press. It was one of my first calling cards to be able to basically say, the idea of this and what we should do, which albeit some of the idea was like, hey, what if we go through the truck? It was basically being a bunch of degenerate kids, like, doing ridiculous things, but like some of the ideation, both to do that and then to actually talk about, what angles and produce that and what would get the attention, and then how to seed it in the right way, how to get it to the right people, to think through who's the audience here, which ultimately was NFL teams and talent scouts. All these people, how do we build for this audience and get it to go viral in the right ways? Kind of thinking through a campaign as ridiculous as it was a good example to show of where it's actually pretty thoughtful and strategically executed, and and it worked well. So it was basically me saying, hey, if I can do that here for a long snapper, right? Like I can do that for you and your product. We can think through similarly the aspects of a campaign and how to really get it out there. And so a lot of the campaigns I did and companies I worked with from then after, like a lot of it came up, and using some of the same tactics, not in terms of snapping a ball, but some of the tactics in terms of strategy, seeding content to the right form. That was kind of something that in some ways was repeated, and it gave me a talking point, and is honestly one that's fun and people like talking about. So yeah, I definitely took advantage of it early in my career to help sell myself to the next step and the next step.
It's interesting. Those things, I think, I shied away from them a lot. When you're talking about specifically the fun aspect, right? Where I even looked at this. I made a post not that long ago about, because we put on this comedy show in Columbus, and we actually just announced the next one in Chicago. But I was pretty hesitant to put that on LinkedIn. Of course, it's on like my personal stuff, but and the interesting thing is, the second I did that, like, that people were more excited and to talk about that and everything else versus just like the regular business stuff. And I think we think that that's the only thing, and I should say, I think often like that's the only thing. Like, keep it to the business, what's valuable to the customer, what's going to, and all that's super important, but you've got to show that other side. That other side is so important, and it's probably going to build a relationship faster. Did you find that to be the case?
It definitely was. It absolutely was. It was something that was a little funny and goofy, but at the same time, I think was impressive enough in the execution and the results that it did become something that, like, let's laugh and have a good time, but okay, let's see how this applies.
So you use this kind of like this guerrilla marketing tactic. Do you have any other examples that you've used, just kind of like either whether that's with Fiat or whomever else? I'm super curious on that.
Yeah. One of my favorites, given, I had a whole lot of crazy ideas for, at Chime, we did a study and found out people were paying on average $329 a year in bank fees. And we did a few things and found out that people didn't realize that they were paying that. So believe me, I had all kinds of ideas for. I wanted to put a sticker on all the Wells Fargo ATMs and all these different all these things that I wanted to do that ultimately we decided not to. However, what we did do was we created a product called Bank Fee Finder, which you would put in your credentials for Plaid and it would tell you how much you paid in bank fees at the end. And what we ended up doing, and we recorded a lot of video. Ironically, I think actually some of the video we recorded was right here. I happened to be sitting in the original Chime office, which is now what's now the Fiat Growth office. And so we recorded some video here, and we called it the what the fee face, and it was WT fee, like what the fee instead of something else. And we had people's reaction for they'd put in their credentials, and then they'd see that they'd paid that. And, $329 on average, most people are forgetting and underestimating what they're paying in bank fees. So we created that content, which was great. The what the fee face, which is that kind of that shock face. And then we also had a viral hook in there for when you put in your credentials and you got your results, it would generate for you to tweet at your bank and say, "Hey, Wells Fargo, I just found out I've paid $460 in bank fees. Hashtag WT fee," for like what?
Oh my
Yeah.
God. How many people did that?
A decent amount. Um, it's something. It's not live today, I don't believe, but it was something that we actually got. I mean, nothing insane, but definitely a few thousand people. Going through it and having that realization, and then overall was part of the general messaging of you don't need to be paying these bank fees. So something that was, a little bit of a stunt, but was backed by actual fact and real people and real reactions. There were a ton of, I could talk all day also the things that I wanted to do that got shut down that we didn't do.
Yeah.
But I thought that was a fun execution, and honestly one that I'm proud of because it's, people shouldn't have to. It's no longer necessary to pay these fees. So
What was the result of that?
it was helpful for, I think, for other PR and some earned media and some attention. We put out some we put out some studies with that data. And then it was something we leaned into further that was a marketing asset that we leaned into for people to not pay fees. So it was a good general awareness campaign that we leaned into that was helpful in acquisition.
Yeah. What size was Chime at that time?
Small enough we could get away with stuff like that. I want to say this was Series A or Series B company at that time.
So really early in Chime.
Yeah.
And if listeners listen to the first episode, and I'd highly recommend it, where we go into a lot of your career on there, but one of the things was Chime. And, I'm curious. So Chime just went public. How did that feel?
It was amazing. And I'll tell you, it was interesting. So just like that trick shot video, Chime, of course, and it's something that I'm genuinely proud of, is a calling card of sorts. I, have built our consultancy and our venture fund not, largely in attribution of, hey, we're going to not just, pick winners, but build winners using the same methodology. And so I'm so enormously grateful for it. And it still comes up all the time, and I'm happy to talk about it. I'm proud of it. It felt like the final piece of like closure, but in a good way.
Yeah.
It was an unbelievable ride. Someone looked up, one of my former colleagues looked up, are you more likely to be, I forget, I'm going to butcher this, but are you more likely to be early at a company that goes public at over a $10 billion valuation, or be struck by lightning? And you're way more likely to be struck by lightning. And it just shows how special and unique it is. That comes from ChatGPT. I think anyone listening, feel free to ask yourself to see the numbers that I'm talking about. And it just made it really special. And it was kind of, it was something that happened now a while ago, because, I founded this almost 7 years ago now. But to celebrate that moment was just incredibly special. And to do it in New York with all of my friends, it was a fun moment and a fun celebration, honestly, of everything we'd accomplished and everything we changed, including helping. To me, I've never lost sight of the fact it's not about the money we make, it's the impact we've had on millions of people. And so it was a cool celebration of here's this company that went public successfully, and it did it based on helping people and was able to do it successfully. And so it was just a really cool closure moment, a proud moment. Um, yeah, one that I'll treasure forever. That's for sure.
I'm curious. I actually didn't realize Fiat only started 7 years ago. It's like a blink of an eye when founding a business, as I've learned. What did you, because you guys are at a good size. What was that the way that it was right out of the gate? Or like what was kind of the what were some of those hills like when you got like what were some of those stage gates that unlocked the big growth on that?
Yeah. It's a great question. And it's funny. I talk to my co-founder, Drew Glover, quite a bit about this, where, at any point in a business, there's a stressful point, there's a challenge, and there's a feeling of discomfort. And throughout the last 7 years, there's just various points I've said, this is just an inflection point. This is just an inflection point. And the inflection points keep growing, and they're different and often more complex. Originally, it was just me being a solo consultant. I asked Drew if he would come help me because, we go back now. It's been 20 plus years that we've known each other. And then it evolved from there. And I think there was a few moments I think of from that very first moment of, look, we have a website that was just like a simple page with, a photo of me and Drew or something like that, to, and the first paying client that we have, and like, you're going to give me money to do this. And like, it still is setting up a first bank account, to moments of, the first referral of, I heard from someone about you. And the first time someone says, hey, I want to work for you, not like, who are you? You have to convince me. Like, people who actually like start to see the traction. And, one of the best things I learned at Chime was hire amazing people. And I took that to heart. And I was lucky to hire amazing people early. But the best thing about amazing people is that amazing people attract other amazing people. So we've done that. And so when I'm like, oh my God, this unbelievably brilliant and talented person wants to join us, that was a huge inflection point several times where I was like, wow, this is incredible. Had a moment of someone large, probably going to go public in the next year or two, fintech company, came and tried to poach one of our team members. And she said, no, thank you, but let me tell you about Fiat Growth and how we can help you. And then we actually ended up talking with them about how we can help them on their growth. And they had deeper pockets than us. Drew and I have bootstrapped this. So creating a culture that people want to be in, and that was just another amazing full circle moment. I think launching our venture fund, a lot of the events, we have 50 events that we're doing this year that we're hosting.
It's pretty heavy, yeah.
Yeah, including the FinTech Summit, which was a big success. We have another one coming up in November in San Francisco. Those have been key moments. I think moments when people, I love when people know our name as a company, and they know it's not about me, it's not about Drew. They just know our name and company, and I've heard about you guys everywhere. And like that evolution from that first moment until as it continues to grow, it's really quite the ride.
No, I believe that. And it's interesting. Like you do kind of look back on some of those pivots and changes that you made, and it's It's like, oh, okay, yeah, that was I would never thought that that was going to happen. Like for us, I never thought we would do a marketing agency. Like no chance. I had lived that before. Now, fortunately, I did live that before because, knowing really talented people that you can bring on, but that was never in the cards for sure. And it's so interesting that those little changes make such huge differences. So, one of the things I want to dive into, so you're the partnerships, partnership, you guys, and now that we've got to know each other and I've got to understand more about your model, you guys, I haven't seen anybody do anything like that. And especially in the financial services and insurance niche. And I know we talked about partnerships at a broad level on the first episode, but I'd really love to get into the weeds and break down a partnership on the insurance side. And I know we talked a little bit about the Lemonade and Bestow relationship. Let's like what where did this start? Where did the idea come from? How did you approach all this? What did that look like?
So I first fell in love with life insurance. Well, one, I had my first child and was thinking just the panic of, oh no, what if something happens to me? I need to take care of her, like so just on a personal level. At that time, I was at Chime launching our marketplace and our cross sell marketplace, and so we had launched. I think Ladder Life was our first one that we launched. Shortly thereafter, we launched Lemonade, renters insurance and homeowners insurance. So this was early days for them, and offering this to people to help protect and better their lives. So I had early exposure to these products from the Chime side.
Okay, I got a question. Sorry, I'm already cutting you off, but like now I'm super interested. I didn't even realize that. Um, okay, everybody wants to crack this nut. Everybody wants to add life insurance, like embed life insurance. We'll just use the most common term. They want to embed life insurance. They want to embed renter. They want to get on these platforms like a Chime. How did that work?
Yeah, yeah. Uh, so I wanted to create this. So funny enough, I begged a friend of mine. Basically, I wanted to do this for Chime members and offer these products. And as in any good startup, it's hard to get resources. And so I begged a friend of mine who was in product to help me launch this in some form. So we were able to actually launch. Um, Basically, they gave me a web container within the Chime app, a basic
Yeah.
page, and a basic CMS to manage the offers. And I had to do everything else for who we're retargeting with these offers, pulling manually their member IDs of who we're offering this to based on certain criteria. Um, and then this is what the offer card's going to say. This is the link. Make sure we're tracking it properly, basically setting up, the CPAs and everything we can do on that front. And then the idea over time is more and more these are handpicked offers for you to make your life better based on certain characteristics. And that was one where, if there are parents, people overestimate the cost of especially term life. And if there are parents,
Oh,
yeah,
100%.
they
Absolutely.
think it's this thing that's only available to like, no, I don't have a financial advisor who's going to get this for me. And so, and so it's something that I felt the security and then actually taking care of your family. I felt that it was important. Genuinely, I had the Chime members in mind for any product of like, is this helpful to them? Is this additive? And that was kind of the lens that I took. And so having these conversations with these companies and experiencing it myself too, with my own daughter, realized like, this is a great product we should be offering. It was the first time you had kind of this, full digital buying, no blood tests, no medical visits.
Oh, that was the killer. I had a digital life insurance agency personally, and I was scheduling nurses all over the country to take these medical exams, and so it was brutal. But you're like what you just said. It was like was that the? I mean, I'm assuming that was probably the key to getting this to actually work. Was better underwriting. Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. Okay.
That was basically when you can take someone and say, you know, protect your family for as little as X a month. You click yes, fill out the application. Obviously, there's a number of checks that go into that, but um, go through that process and then actually get a decision in real time and put in your credit card, bind the policy, you're protected, right? Like that, instead of a process that takes weeks. And
Yeah.
um, so that was a big game changer for sure. As was Lemonade was a game changer in itself in terms of not just the binding of the policies, but in the ways that they help you on the back end. Um, there's a lot that was just much smoother and different from other products in the market. So I'd come to love a number of products, not just those two, but really loved and appreciated the Lemonade team. And I had met Bestow Life Insurance. They actually just, I think, recently announced their Series D. Great team, wonderful people who I'm incredibly grateful to. They're one of the people who I was lucky to, I felt like you're going to pay me to do these things for you. That, they're one of the first.
Yeah.
And Jonathan Abelman in particular from Bestow, I feel like it's like an informal co-founder of Fiat Growth because he was our first client, because he, we talked about the business as we were building it up, and he's had a ton of amazing suggestions. But, he was telling me as they're launching Bestow Life Insurance, and really loved their vision, which included also making it more accessible to a wider audience. And so I said, I want to come help you with this. And that was part of they were the first client of Fiat Growth. And so that was one of the things that made me take the jump and want to bring Bestow Life Insurance to life and get it the distribution that I knew that it could. So that was a combination of several different pieces, but partnership being a huge piece of that growth. Early on, and we can talk about a lot of the early growth there, but early on, I went to my friend Maya at Lemonade, who, if you've ever applied for Lemonade and you see Maya, who is kind of the chatbot that walks you through the application process, Maya is real. She's wonderful. and and actually leads the business side of Lemonade. And so I talked to her, and we talked about, on the business side, I had also appreciated not just was this a great product that people needed, but life insurance has a pretty amazing LTV, right? It's a great product if you can find the right audience for it. And so, we had talked about their existing products, which at the time were renters insurance and homeowners. And we talked about the value of adding life. And it was just something I had a few conversations at the time with various people about, hey, maybe you should consider offering this. There's a lot of life insurance that's out there in fintech today because I nicely suggested it, I guess. And people were nice enough to go along with it. But so what that became is we actually brought together the Bestow and Lemonade teams, and in a highly regulated space, it is never super fast. But those teams came together, and Lemonade actually offered life insurance, and they offered life insurance through Bestow. So it was white label Bestow running everything in the background, but it took time to give it a very Lemonade feel. That, of course, is a challenge in itself because it's highly regulated into how you must ask each question to underwrite this. But the way you typically ask an underwriting question is different from the vibe and brand that Lemonade have, the Maya experience. And so, how can we do that in a way that still feels very Lemonade with being powered by the amazing experience of Bestow underneath? That took a fair amount of time, and we were able to launch, and it ended up being a fantastic success for both companies, and something that was bringing together friends of mine, companies that I loved, products that I loved, and expanding the reach of Bestow and expanding the offerings of Lemonade and ability to get that to more families.
Many people will sign these agreements. They'll sign a partnership. They might do a couple emails and doesn't really, or they'll just put it on the website. It doesn't really produce that much usage out of it. Like, you just don't sell that many policies on it. What did you guys do to make sure that drove usage, and that you made money off of this?
That is such a huge, huge question. And because that's, you look at a product like, say, Chime, and I think I'm quoting their S1, something like people are using it 53 times a month or something like that on average. You look at a life insurance product, often you're putting your card in, you're getting set, and you forget about it forever, right? And so engagement really differs depending, on the product. Renters and homeowners insurance, kind of a little bit in the middle. You're moving a little more often than, every 20 years, right? On
But still
average,
not a
but
lot.
still not a
Not
lot.
a lot.
So there's a lot to be said for one of the biggest appreciations, and it was something that I took to heart and wanted to add as we were building out our consultancy, was just life cycle generally. And that is content being in front of the right people at the right time, mapping very closely the customer journey that they're going through and where you should be and the messaging you should have for them at each point, seeing where there's huge drop off and where there's opportunity you think to really help conversion along or retention or, referring another friend in some cases for a product or all these things to really understand the customer journey. So I would say that the customer journey in almost every case and almost every successful company that I've worked with is at the core and the crux of its ultimate success.
So you're mapping out the customer journey, so you could do life cycle marketing against that. What are some of the actual tactics as part of your life cycle marketing campaigns to drive success in a partnership?
Yeah. First off is and underlying is great data. So that is knowing, and so that's mapping both where are their drop off points, and that's everything from even, open rates, click through rates, deliverability rates, looking at some of these pieces and just seeing like what kind of engagement am I getting here, to understanding where in the journey someone is, how long it typically takes someone to, I don't want to be hit over the head day after day after day after day in a product that I'm going to think about for the next few weeks, few months. So what's the right cadence? And so I think it's really understanding the individual and the common journey and mapping that to how often you should be hearing from us and also what messaging we should be having. It's not just hello again, hello again, hello again. It's not just that kind of, annoying follow-up, but finding that right, kind of similar to a reach and frequency campaign, right? Like how often are we touching base and what is that messaging that we're coming to you with? And maybe in some cases where you're getting really granular, you're saying, hey, you engaged and spent time on this piece of content or this ad or something that was on this topic. So it seems like you're interested in this, or we could infer that if you have interest in this, you also have interest in this. And so let's put this in front of you. So again, that all comes back to, good content, but ultimately good data that can deliver for you where you should be engaging and how. There's a lot of nuance in the strategy, but also in the technical delivery of that.
And those are you're saying, and are these, when you said they're interacting with an ad and things like that? Now with things like Clay now, you can actually get a lot more intent data that you can pull into that. But were you essentially referring to like ads that I'll just use Chime as an example, but this may not be applicable. But Chime has ads that they're putting out there. They've got content that they're putting out there. And you have the data on what they're interacting with, and when they interact with said piece of content or ad, you're using that as a trigger event to, I'm going to just say random example, send them an email for life insurance because they were reading on maybe a family planning piece of content or something like that. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of, you can see, did I engage? There was if you have an advertisement and it's, protect your family or something like that. If you don't have a family, if you don't have young kids, you're probably not going to engage in that. Because, for the most part, we're not asking people in enrollment in most products, do you have kids? Right. So we need to kind of infer it from other pieces. Some of it can come from transaction data, but a lot of it is, I don't know, I bought at Amazon or Target or Walmart. What'd you buy? Did you buy diapers there or formula, or did you buy a PlayStation? Right? Like I can't necessarily tell, which is a whole nother world of that I love, by the way, of SKU level transaction data, and that space is one that excites me. But
Okay. I was just going to say, Is this okay? I'm going to ask a naive question. Is this data available?
It's a good question. At a high level, at a high level with the right strategic execution, yes, it can be available.
Interesting.
There, in some limited cases, retailers make it available to the networks, uh, but it's not all retailers. Um, there are platforms, and there's uh, one that we helped grow quite a bit called CoinOut that was acquired by IRI. That was receipt capture. Did you engage? So, assuming I don't have that receipt, but I have a video that I put out or some content, some 10-second content that's about protecting your family, and you stayed the whole time, or you watched, or you clicked after, then I'm thinking, and maybe I'm marking down that you are more likely to have a kid, right? So I'm thinking that then maybe I should lean into that messaging versus, a different profile, a different persona that we may be building toward, and trying to build that out and customize it toward them. Same thing for, say, certain behaviors. Chime, for instance, they if you didn't know this, when you use a debit card at a gas pump, at first there's a hold that's put on the card for a flat amount that's typically larger than you're going to transact. People often are like, wait, what happened to my money? It comes back quickly, but that question kept coming up in member services. And so when that question keeps coming up, it's the idea of, okay, well, I want these people to stick around and not be mad at us. So let me work on messaging at that moment and explain to them exactly what happens, exactly when it's going to be returned. People appreciated that. And it was something that this is the tiniest transaction piece, but it actually is meaningful to a member and makes them more likely to be retained, and higher NPS scores, higher appreciation of the product, just for understanding that.
So you're looking for you're aggregating all of these very small predictive indicators in order to essentially create a score. And when they hit X score, that's when email goes out. That's when an ad is targeted to them specifically for these different products that are in this partnership. Is that right?
Yeah, it can be trigger based. A certain transaction, or this was your fourth transaction, or you got this far in an enrollment flow, or you viewed this much of an ad, you engaged in this content. The trigger can be something, whether it's a score or a certain action. There's all kinds of triggers that you can set to actually give you confidence that we should be delivering this message to you at this point.
Have you started to add tools like Clay and things like that to be able to now go and read all of your posts and look for any type of, news article? It just, there's so much out there that it can bring into. Are you starting to do that?
Yeah, I will say, one of the things I appreciate most about our brilliant team is they are constantly looking at the newest tools out there. They're constantly embracing AI and AI agents and their ability to make impact for us. We've built many of our own tools internally that we use. Some of them are as basic as, let me help me with a creative brief or something, make it a lot easier. And some of them are really in-depth of understandings of, our ICPs, our members that we're going after, personas we're going after. So there are many tools that we're constantly incorporating.
So, okay. So you mentioned there's the trigger based examples. What are some of the other examples on that? Is that just kind of your general retargeting, paid ads, things like that? We've got to, well, that'd still be, I was going to say change in season and things like that, but that's still trigger based. What are the ones? So you've got trigger based as a category. What are the other categories that you're using for outreach and to drive adoption?
I'd say there's just various triggers. Some of it is, to your point, there's seasonality. Absolutely. There's where you are in a customer journey, whether you've signed up or not, whether we want you to take some further action, whether that is, set up direct deposit, whether that is refer a friend, whether that is, hey, you had a second kid, maybe you need to ladder up and have an additional amount of life insurance. There are these different data pieces that if we know, then we can include that with the right messaging. So it's both kind of macro in terms of seasonality. It's personalized to you in terms of your own journey, your own unique situation, um, and yeah, meeting you where data says that we should.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I'm curious, like if when you opt into certain rewards and stuff like that on credit cards and things like that, now that could unlock additional data points that you have. I always think of the example of Target. Target has probably one of the most interesting. They were so early on this, and where you probably know the story, but where Target started sending all these coupons for like baby formula and all the family planning and things like this to a house. Well, the parents were getting this because it was to the daughter, and the parents were getting this, and they're like, Are you pregnant and not telling me?" The daughter's like, "No, no, I'm not." And then she actually took a pregnancy test and was pregnant. Target they knew based off of her spending habits at Target that had nothing to do at all with, with like in her mind, she wasn't buying anything for family planning because she had no idea she was actually pregnant, and and obviously that was a big. This is public. This isn't anything that's like um like a myth. So like it's wild, and essentially it's what you're talking about in a totally maybe not a totally different
No, I mean it
aspect.
just comes down to data points. In that case, the trigger was probably, it wasn't definitively yes, this person it was pregnant, but it was, maybe she had heartburn, or she had, some kind of product that she was purchasing because she felt some kind of early pregnancy symptom that she didn't recognize. And that was a trigger of this makes you more likely to be pregnant. And so it was not, yeah, not something that she input, but it is all of those pieces that people will use to whether it's known or unknown. I think in most cases it's known, but certainly there's a lot of data that knows us better than we know ourselves in some cases.
Okay. So I'm curious. It's super interesting. I'm glad we dove into that in detail. I do you on the service business side of the house, do you get excited about AI or do you fear it?
Both, both. As a whole, excited for sure. I also think it's interesting for what it's worth that, you know, services traditionally run at a lower margin. Technology allows some service businesses to run more like a SaaS based business. You could potentially have improved margins because of that. And honestly, you can do it in a way that's, not hurting or harming anyone. It's making everyone more efficient. No one wants to be doing a lot of the busy work, the kind of the mindless execution. It's a lot of the other tactical strategy, relationship pieces that people actually really enjoy. And so AI is allowing people to enjoy their jobs more, to be more efficient, and do some things, quite frankly, that are really powerful. There's so many things that I did manually early in my career that now can be automated with AI that I'm like, thank you. That was like,
Yeah.
this was the bane of my existence, was having to do X thing.
Yeah.
And no, so I think we should not fear it. It's you know, for the most part, AI is not gonna take your job. It's a person using AI that's going to take your job if you don't embrace it. So we think about the future of consultancies and the future of growth and how that will take place. And we think about what AI tools will be part of that success. And whether that's something we build ourselves or you know, we partner with, we just straight buy from them. Um, we're figuring out the stack as all growth continues to evolve of where AI fits and continuing to help businesses grow. So we're very much embracing it, both because we have to, but to survive and to succeed, but also because honestly, it will long term give the best positive results.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that, but I can't deny that. I am afraid. It's and it keeps I keep thinking it's going to get closer to replacing some of these, especially in the creative side, but it's just not there. I mean, not saying like it's a heck of a copywriter, but it's not necessarily going to get into the nuances of the actual details that come from like a customer interview. It doesn't mean it may not at some point, and that's the part that I fear at some point. But it is interesting.
There's a lot that can be replaced, and there's stuff that people say, well, AI can't replace this, but it can, and it's just challenging. I do think there are some human elements that an AI just can't replicate. They could mock and try to imitate it, but some of it is that human empathy, that human understanding. That is, people, I always say, they don't remember what you said, but they remember how you make them feel. There's something very human about human interaction, understanding with empathy how you make them feel comfortable, alleviate stress, build trust, whatever it is. That's very difficult for technology to replicate. I mean, theoretically, you and I on this podcast right now, either one of us could be a generative AI asking questions and responding to the other, right? Theoretically.
Well, no, I am.
Oh, okay. Well, great. Then I'm just wasting my time. Great. It's been fun.
Exactly.
Yeah, theoretically that can happen, but there is something in human to human connection that is irreplaceable. And so it's figuring out those pieces that you can't really build technology for, and then figuring out the pieces that honestly technology was made for, and efficiency is going to be massive, the gains that are going to come from it, for what should be built, what should be embraced.
Yep. And similar to yourself, and what we also think that in person is going to be 10 times more important, and we've doubled down on events. And I think you're going to start to see bigger brands start doing that as well. You're starting to see a little bit, but it feels like that's just going to be even more important.
Our events have been incredible, and it's everything from a small dinner with 20 founders coming together, talking shop, to a large summit with speakers and speed networking, to even happy hours at other events and other things that foster real human connection and discussion. And then there's a lot of follow-up that can happen using technology, using AI, and some of the execution. But at the core of it is human to human connection that's bringing it together, that's ideating together, strategizing together, building that bond, that trust, and then efficiently executing on your shared vision.
Yep. Alex, last question I have for you. If you can have a conversation with your younger self, age totally up to you, what would that conversation be? What advice would you give them?
Buy NVIDIA. Yeah. Good question. Life goes fast.
Man, is that not the truth?
Yeah. Don't be in such a hurry. I think there's always, we're always working on something, and there's some goal that's 6 months out, or even, we're a kid and we're 9 and we can't wait to turn 10 or whatever that is. And, don't hurry up through life, because we've only got one shot at it, and life is short, even if you're lucky to live a long life. And so, enjoy the ride.
I love it. Perfect place to wrap from where we started on enjoy the ride. I love it. Alex, thanks for coming on, man.
Thanks for having me. Great seeing you.
I hope you enjoyed Alex and my conversation. Partnerships are one of my favorite topics, and Alex is one of those people that I love talking about them with. If you want to learn more about Alex, you can find him on LinkedIn in the show notes. Also, if you like this episode, you can find me on LinkedIn to let me know. And if you really want to support the show, give us a follow on YouTube or give us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Every time, we very much appreciate it. And thank you for listening, everybody, and we'll see you next week.